Right. Hello, Uroosa. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been long awaited for me. I've been so looking forward. Thank you. I've been so looking forward to, having the privilege to interview you and just reading about your story. I just want to let our viewers know that Uroosa is actually on duty. So at any minute, if she's called, she will have to go. And so hopefully we will resume this. We're going to be also doing a blog piece on Uroosa and her journey. So again, that would be another area where people can read more about Uroosa. So I'm just going to kickstart with the first question. Can you tell us a bit about yourself for those that may not know who you are?
I guess you've done the introduction really, but I'm a firefighter. I'm based at West Bridgeford Station in Nottingham, and I'm on Green Watch. So that's me.
Yeah. So you are not just any firefighter, you are the first UK hijabi firefighter. So how does that feel to, because the BBC have covered you, so many different platforms like Islam Channel, so many different organizations that are so fascinated with your story and the fact that you are the first UK hijabi firefighter. So being in that position, how does that feel?
It's really strange, to be honest, because I've been doing it for a couple of years now, but I've been in probation. So truthfully, before I didn't even know that I was going to be the first hijabi. I just kind of wanted to do the job, and it just so happened we realized there wasn't anything in place yet, and so we started to put things in place. And I went through my probation, and we tried to keep it a little bit quiet as we could for as long as possible, just so that I could finish my training properly and be a proper firefighter straight away before I got into any of this kind of stuff. But it has massively blown up recently and become quite big. I'm still not quite entirely sure why, but it seems that, being the first hijabi is having a positive impact, especially on our community, to kind of get a good message out there that regardless of our faith, regardless of our gender, regardless of any of these kind of seen barriers, they aren't barriers. You can still achieve what you want to. You just got to find ways around it. So it's a strange feeling being the first, but I'm getting a lot of positive feedback, so I think it's good.
No, it's absolutely amazing. And why a firefighter? When did you know that was something that you wanted to do?
For me, it actually started when I was really little. I was still in school, in primary school. And I remember the firefighters coming to my school. I still vividly remember the image. There was like 3 of them stood in front, all white males, but that didn't faze me at the time. I was only little. And they were doing like a fire safety talk, and I was just in awe of them. I was just like, these are like proper superheroes of this world. Like that, this is the closest thing you can get, And I very much loved kind of helping people and being there to fix things and stuff like that. So that kind of side of it really drew me in, and I wanted to be a part of something where I could help in the community and help to save lives and better things for our people. So, I was only little, so at that time it was just the pure excitement of it. As I grew up, it kind of just stayed in the back of my mind that it was still something that I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I was older, till I finished school and finished sixth form, that's when I actually seriously started thinking about it and making it a little bit more realistic to achieve.
Throughout your journey, did you, obviously you said this has been a childhood dream. Did you ever think that it may be impossible for you to do it? Did you ever think that dream was unreachable, or did you always feel like, no, this is something that I'm determined to do and I'm going to do it?
I think there's always been barriers. Like when I was young, even just family and community kind of, not pressure, but pressure, where you're always encouraged to study as much as you can, get the highest paid job, all of that kind of stuff. So I didn't probably take that dream seriously. It was just a dream in my mind, something that I thought about when I was on my own, that's all it was. So that was a barrier, I guess, for a while that probably kept me away from it. But after that, I kind of just thought, once I knew it was definitely what I was going to do, I was just determined. But then there wasn't any opportunities available when I actually wanted to apply. So I actually went to personal training instead. which I absolutely love as well. Like I love that. I did that for a good 6-7 years. And it was amazing. I really, really enjoyed that career. But then the opportunity came up and I just knew I couldn't pass it up. I needed to go for it. And I did. And there's been times, even past that where I've thought, gosh, is it something I can do? There hasn't been anyone before me. I'm having to take all these steps and work with the service to create something that we can kind of develop and put in place for someone like me. So I did question it a fair bit to think, is it going to be possible? Is it realistic? But alhamdulillah,
you've shown that it is. Yeah. And, you kind of mentioned about community and also family and, being, an Asian and obviously being a woman that, sometimes it's really difficult to kind of envision that, Uroosa is going to become a firefighter. When did you think that they, really backed you and supported you and thought, actually, you know what, Uroosa is going to do it. She is going to become a firefighter. So we want to kind of back her and support her in that.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, my family are incredible. My immediate family are incredible. We've always been probably a little bit out of the ordinary. We've all done things that are slightly strange from the standard Asian.
Yeah.
And I've got really powerful women, alhamdulillah, that support me in my family. Yeah. So I've always had their support in everything that I did. I just don't think they took it seriously from when I was little. Yeah. But as soon as I told them what I was going to do and I explained to them why I wanted to do it, that was really what kind of hit home and made them understand that, gosh, her reasoning behind it and why she wants to work towards this, to improve my faith as well, to build a better connection with Allah. Like that was my kind of intention. Mm-hmm. And they understood that and they've completely backed me since. They've not once have I not had their support, from my immediate family, that is.
That's amazing. And, talking about faith, and obviously that you're wearing the hijab and that you do such an important role in our society, in our community, in terms of saving lives. Do you feel a sense of responsibility to be in that position from, being a female where people look up to you, being a Muslim because you visibly are a Muslim with the fact that you wear the hijab, but also being a firefighter and what you represent in our community? Do you feel that sense of responsibility in all three of those kind of areas?
Yeah, 100%. From all of those angles, I feel that responsibility. As a firefighter, I've got a responsibility to do my job at the best ability that I can. And, a lot of people, as people may have heard me mention before, a lot of people see me as a bit of a tick box and that I only got the job because of who I am and the differences that I have. So I regularly feel sort of that responsibility to do even better than the standard person, to make sure that no one doubts my ability. And then on the Islamic side of it, my being the first hijabi there's so much responsibility that I can't sort of put a foot wrong. I need to make sure that, I'm paving that path for other potential female Muslims to come into the job. So, simple things. I can be honest, when none of us are perfect. I've always rolled my sleeves up to my elbows. Like that's just a normal thing that I've done. And even though I wear hijab and I should cover, I had to think when I was thinking about uniform, actually for a Muslim woman, I need to make sure that there's some provisions there for a complete full length sleeve rather than me being okay with a half sleeve. I have to think ahead and think for the whole of our community, not just myself, and make sure things are put in place, make sure, even though me personally, I was okay with reading my namaz in our changing room and I was okay with that, but I had to think actually for the future, for more Muslims coming into this job, I need to make sure there is a prayer room, there is that facility available for them, and kind of, that is a lot of responsibility, I think, on my shoulders to make sure I try and put those things in place and do right by my faith. Working in a completely male-dominated area and mostly white as well, I have to make sure that I'm not seen in a negative light and people understand what I do. A lot of people think I'm, just around men all the time that are doing all sorts. And, we have night shifts, so God knows what must be happening, but, completely nothing like that. We have our own changing rooms, we have our own facilities, our separate areas, and it's nothing like that. But, there are misconceptions that you need to kind of have that responsibility to phase out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you're paving that way to have that dialogue with people that usually may not be, working with Muslims on a regular basis, and especially a female one, or knowing much about the faith. So I think it's amazing that you're having those conversations and bringing a sense of normalcy in your role, and also for the future female or male Muslims that may become firefighters one day. In one of your interviews, you mentioned that stereotypes exist in the profession. Why do you think that is?
I think the stereotype has been there for a long time, generally with the fire service and also the police. These kind of services were those services that people that were in the military and had finished their tours, their roles in the military, they would filter down, come back into normal society, and would naturally fall into these roles. And generally, the white male was in the military. So they then naturally filtered down, and that stereotype was created where it was a job that was there for someone that was very strong, very in the community, and like physically, all those things. They've created that stereotype. And if there isn't people in that area, that service, that looks like you, so whether it's a female, whether it's a person of color, whether it's a person that's transgendered, whether it's, anything that's different or a minority, if you can't see that vision in front of you, that people are there, you can't actually visualize yourself being there. It is really difficult to visualize that. So naturally, then no one kind of goes into those roles, and it just becomes less and less. So it takes people to come into those roles and make that visual representation to help people kind of see that it's possible.
Yeah, and that means that you do have to have an element of determination to kind of visualize yourself within that, and to push forward to make sure that you achieve your goals.
Yeah.
My next question is, why is it important that more women, ethnic minorities, and people from different faiths become firefighters? I know that you generally just touched upon that, but if you could just kind of tell us a bit, there could be a future firefighter watching this and, thinking,
so.
Actually, I hope so too. And, thinking, I want to do this, so why do you think it's important to have representation that encompasses, the whole of our community?
I think it's so important because our community is so diverse now. Living in the UK, we are very, very diverse. There are so many different types of people, not just by faith, but by all different types, different backgrounds. And then surely as a service, we need to represent that community, because we have to be able to be relatable and get into communities that aren't necessarily spoken to. Like, I know that from our community, sort of the Kashmiri background people, we don't talk about fire safety. We don't talk about, do you have a smoke alarm in your home? So many people ask me, what's a smoke alarm? Yeah. And it, I'm gobsmacked, but it's because it's not spoken about. And why is that? Because how many white males do we let into our home on a daily basis? Why are we going to let the fire service, that we seem as quite scary almost, because they're so sort of like they're a service that are so untouched, they're left on their own. How are we going to let them into our homes or into our communities or into our children's lives? It's just unheard of. So until we're there representing, then how are we going to build those community relationships? And I think something that someone said to me quite recently, which I found really interesting, was that obviously each individual brings their own talents, their own characteristics, their own techniques, their own specialities. And if we're not actually dipping into all those differences, how are we going to make the most of any situation? Some people can bring a completely different mindset into a situation. And firefighting, a lot of it is about problem solving, and you come across a situation, you need to work out how you can overcome that. And that if you only have one track minded type people, how are you going to get different options, different easier, more effective, potential solutions? You've got to have a diverse workforce to represent the community and get the most out of the situations that you come across.
Exactly. And I think you mentioned a really amazing point about, your background being Kashmiri and tapping into that community, and also breaking down those language barriers, because some people may not even know what a smoke alarm is because they don't understand somebody speaking to them. And as you mentioned, it is scary, somebody knocking on your door. You may think you're in trouble, or, am I going to get in trouble because I don't have a smoke alarm? Would I get, fined or something like that? And having a smoke alarm, just the basic, is so important. And I know that we recently got ours for free, which was amazing. And, finding a bit more about how a smoke alarm works, I know a lot of people have their battery run out on their smoke alarm and they're thinking, oh God, how am I going to replace that because they're quite high, or is there a specific battery as well? And I know that with smoke alarms, they've evolved. So definitely, it's just so important to, if we don't have people from different backgrounds and different different languages, then we're never going to be tapping into different parts of the community and in essence saving lives, which is the main part of what you do.
Even last year with Ramadan, we actually did we created, with me now being in the service, we created a video about safety in Ramadan, and we did it in Urdu. And the amount of people that reached and the amount of positive feedback we got from that, because they literally said, we wouldn't have understood that. We never would have accessed a video that was in English on a Shooting Fire and Rescue website. Who's going to access that from an Asian background with language barriers? So when they saw that video and learned a little bit more, it was only a snippet, but learned a little bit more about fire safety, they were like, wow, this is something we need to be a bit more aware of. And that's
definitely. Yeah, and I just think that small thing that was discovered, the big difference is actually going to make. So it just shows, again, as you mentioned, everybody has their strengths. And by, working together and acknowledging where the limitations are, what you can achieve. So my next question is, did you ever feel worried that you would feel left out, or did you ever feel left out wearing a hijab and working in the sector that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest, it's quite lonely, still being, as far as we know, still the only one in the whole of the UK. It's quite lonely. I have a lot of support, don't get me wrong, from people with different backgrounds, different faiths, and a lot of women. I have a lot of support, but as the single Muslim hijabi firefighter, there isn't anyone else. So it is quite lonely sometimes. And especially with all of this sort of media interest at the minute, which, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the positive impact it's having. It's also quite overwhelming for one person. So it does sometimes feel lonely, and I can't wait for more people to join so that I can kind of make friends with them and share everything with them. So
Oh no, I think you're doing such a tremendous job, and I'm sure that you'll be paving the way for so many future female hijabis to come into the sector. So I think it's really great what you're putting into your role and into your sector. What I found especially really fascinating and eye-opening is that you are already working in a male-dominated field. So firstly, how did you counteract that? And then secondly, being a hijabi, how did you navigate in wanting to be more open with your with your faith in your role? Because as you mentioned, I'm not sure, maybe you're going to, provide me with some background, but in terms of Asian people, female Asian people working in the firefighting service, is there many? But also, you consciously saying, right, I'm going to become a firefighter. So I am a female. I have to counteract the whole kind of male dominant role. And also I'm actually going to visibly show my faith because I'm going to wear the hijab. How did you decide that's what you're going to do?
I mean, it was tough. I can't say it's been an easy journey, and there has been people that have kind of tried to knock it back a little bit. I remember just in sort of like the application time, even before I'd started applying, and I'd gone to like this awareness day, and there was a trainer there we were doing different types of exercises to get us used to, different stuff. And a white elder male, and he was like, right, so get that thing off your head then and we'll get you in. And I was just like, this thing isn't, come off, it stays on. And then he was like, well, basically along the lines of, well, you're not going to get anywhere in this job, with that on. And at that point I had to walk away and kind of compose myself and think, well, I need to, am I being asked to choose between my dream job and my faith? Am I having to decide between the two? Because it shouldn't, I want to do both. And why am I currently being stopped, for doing that? But, you never get around it. And I had a lot of support. I had some incredible people, that really, really helped me through it and encouraged me and said, we will find a way and we've just got to work through it. So yeah, kind of coming in, you have to prove a little bit, as I've mentioned before, like you have to work that little bit harder and prove that you are more capable than what people think. Someone thinks, yeah, look at the size of you. How are you going to carry me out of a building? And, little do they know how we work as a team and how we function, how we actually do bring people out is very different to the fireman's lift that people used to imagine. It's not like that anymore. So it's about kind of combating and pushing yourself that much more to prove that, which is a shame. I shouldn't have to prove that, but you do at the minute with us being a minority. You do have to prove that and push that a little bit harder, make sure you don't make any mistakes and all of that kind of stuff. But I have to mention that that there are so many other roles in the fire service. It's not just being a firefighter like me. That was my dream. But there's actually so many other roles that you can do that are, whether it's fire investigation, whether it's like engineering, whether it's admin, IT, HR, there's so many different areas, fire protection, all of this that you can go into and be a part of something incredible without having to be, a firefighter. There's a lot of stuff out there.
That's really interesting. And I just want to go back to the hijab again. You were put in a position where you felt that you had to choose between your faith and your dream role, and you stuck to your guns and you stuck to your faith because that's really important to you. And many that may be listening to this, you're their shiro. You're going to be their hero, but a shiro, and they will think, wow, because times are changing, and a lot of people young girls that wear the hijab that may look up to somebody like an Instagram follower or a YouTuber who used to wear the hijab and no longer do. They will look to you and think, wow, she stuck to her guns and she didn't compromise on her faith. What advice would you give to somebody who's wearing the hijab, may want to do a dream job, doesn't have to be a firefighter, and is thinking, do I wear the hijab? Can I identify with somebody who wears a hijab who's, in the spotlight, or somebody who's successful? If you had to kind of give some words to somebody, a young girl that, is kind of thinking, oh, do I keep this on? Because am I ever going to get anywhere? What piece of advice would you give that person?
I completely understand how tough it is, and going through it, I definitely appreciate the battles and the negativity, and it can bring you down. But what you have to remember, I think, and what really helped me is, at the end of the day, this is just the world. This is our short amount of time on this earth. And don't worry about the hijab. Like, hijab as the scarf on your head that covers your hair is not what hijab is. There's so much more to hijab. Just focus on your iman, focus on your faith and your own connection with your Allah. Like, once you've got that down and you focus on that, everything else just falls into place. Your hijab will just naturally come. Your role that you want to go into, although it may be tough, everything, in this life is a test, but it will all naturally fall into place for you as long as you focus on what's important first. Like just focus on that connection and let the rest just fall into place, and you will find a way. There are ways, and you can make it happen.
Definitely. I think that's really good advice, focusing on your relationship with God, and naturally you'll find your kind of purpose, and the hijab will kind of naturally fall into that. So you won't really be focusing just on the hijab. You'll be focusing on your overall purpose and why you're doing what you're doing in that specific profession. How has your role as a firefighter contributed towards strengthening your faith? Because I remember reading somewhere that you mentioned an ayah of the Quran that really kind of touched me, which is, if you save one life, you save the whole of humanity. And so that's why that question came about. If you could just tell us a bit about your role of, obviously saving lives, saving, just so much, saving communities, tell us a bit about that. How is that, how's your role contribute towards strengthening your faith?
I mean, it definitely has. I can't even stop smiling when I think of that ayah. It means so much to me. It really does, because and I think naturally I always had that from perhaps my family, the way they were. I naturally just wanted to help people in some way, shape or form. And when I was studying, and my mom was telling me, go be a doctor. I knew
they do.
They do. But I knew that wasn't for me. I knew that that's not how I was going to contribute to society. That's not how I was going to kind of live my life. But I still related to it in terms of helping people. But finding the fire service, it just meant that I can literally do what works for me and my kind of natural instincts. And I can adapt that and join that with my faith, and where I can actually save lives in lots of different ways. I was telling you earlier about, we went to a derelict building that was on fire today. Although we didn't save necessarily any person's life at that time, it could have spread and it could have gotten worse. We can have jobs like that where, we are saving physical lives at that time, but also just as small as putting a smoke alarm up in an elderly person's house, that potentially has saved that person's life, and it can prevent so much from happening. Even just giving advice, sometimes we just become like mini counselors, and we visit these people that haven't had visitors, obviously, before COVID. Or we go to schools and we show children how they can achieve their dreams, whether it's being a firefighter or anything, but showing them they can achieve whatever they want to. All these small snippets are what I believe is my way of contributing to my faith as well as my community, and kind of joining them together. And I personally can't think of a better way to do it. Like for me, I genuinely think it's the best job in the world.
No, I think your story really has resonated with me, because when I was growing up, when I was 8 years old, I really wanted to help people. In what capacity, I didn't know, but what I knew was that I wanted a job to help people. And so it was definitely going to be through the charity sector for me, because I really enjoyed writing. And so you kind of think, I'm writing something, how it's going to touch people's lives. And I think, your role really does echo that again, helping people through different ages, doing different activities, like inspiring children at a young age, letting them know what fire safety is, installing, a smoke alarm in somebody's home, and reducing that chain effect where their life could be impacted. So, and contributing to your community, breaking down language barriers, breaking down the barriers of people thinking, because of my color of my skin or that I'm female, I might not be able to become a firefighter. I think it's tremendous. And I think definitely you are bringing so much positive change in your community. And I think it's brilliant to know that you can make a difference in so many different roles. You don't have to necessarily be that doctor, which is kind of the typical way that people assume that you're helping. And so I think it's really inspiring to know that you can make a big change through, whatever role that you decide to do. My question is, what does it mean to you? I know you kind of touched on this, but that your role as a firefighter allows you to kind of give back to your community and help others. And when I say your community, it's your wider community of Nottingham, but also the Asian community that you're part of.
It literally means so much to me. Like, I can't even express it. The fact that I have found this way, this method of reaching all these people, and especially now with all the positive, comments that I'm getting, the people are getting in touch from literally all over the world at the minute, and saying how my story has inspired them, and they're coming to me crying, saying that I've inspired their daughters and I've helped their daughters to believe that they can do it. And one of my favorite moments since being in this job is when, I think it was a couple of years ago, we went to a school and it was mainly white children and there was a few coloured kids, and we showed them around the truck and we showed them equipment and all of that kind of stuff. And this little Asian girl, I'm not sure what her full background was, but she just kind of clung to me a little bit. And she basically, at the end, she just looked up at me almost in awe as well. And she was like, I can't wait to be a fire engine just like you when I grow up.
Oh, that is so cute.
It melted my heart completely. Yeah. I was just like, this is why I do what I do, like this is the impact that it has. And that's why I've got to keep pushing forward with this kind of stuff, because it's alhamdulillah having a positive impact. So
definitely. And I think, I know you're 27 years old. Yeah. And so when you were probably that age, you probably didn't feel like you had that representation. And so it's brilliant that, again, a young child will look at that and think, oh, that's normal. That's a normal thing, that there's an Asian female hijabi firefighter. That's normal. And that's not impossible for me. That is possible. And I think, again, that's why it's so important to have that diversity in so many different roles, because you are normalizing things. It's not alien, when we were probably kids and thinking about things like that. So at Muslim Hands, our strapline for this Ramadan is all about hope. How has hope changed your life and made you look at things differently?
Gosh, hope is an incredible thing, isn't it? Like, hope is your one motivator that really keeps you going when everything else is just kind of falling apart or isn't quite going right for you. It's having that hope that really pushes you through, that having that hope and that kind of the acceptance of God's plan for you, knowing that, somewhere, somehow it will work out and things will get better. And I think for me, that's something I've had to hold on to a lot through my career and my journey, my life as a whole. You have to hold on to that hope that things are going to get better, things will fall into place, and it will be worth it. As long as you're doing, taking the right steps, it will all be worth it in the end, whether it's in this world or the next. And yeah, I definitely think hope is something that you have to hold on so tightly to, because without it, you're going to struggle forever, aren't you?
It's true. Very true. Yeah. And I think especially in the pandemic era, hope has been a massive thing for a lot of people. It's been some dark times for some. And so, as you mentioned, hope is the kind of driving force to keep going. And again, I think with your story about your, you started off in the kind of health, kind of fitness kind of background, and then you worked into becoming a firefighter. And as you mentioned, there have been struggles in you achieving your goals and your dreams, but it's that hope that's kind of kept you going. For those that, are watching this and thinking, actually, I do want to be a firefighter, what advice would you give? Where should they start?
If you're genuinely thinking about being a firefighter, the best thing to do is talk to people. And I'm 100% there. If anyone wants to talk, I will be there and help you. But talk to people that are already in the job, because especially in our communities, we don't have those links that many people in, say, the white communities have, where, maybe their uncle was a firefighter or something like that. You don't have that. So talk to people that are in the job, get a real insight. When COVID is a little bit easier, visit stations and get to know what things are like. And then train super hard. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of studying, a lot of training. But if you truly want to do it, you can push through and you can achieve it. And I will definitely be there to help you if it is something you're interested in.
That's brilliant. But, with training, how long is training? How many years does it take to train? And do you need to have a certain physical strength? And do you have to be a certain age as well?
So age is, I think, don't quote me, but I think it's just 18. Okay. Pretty sure it's 18. and above. So whatever age, no matter how old you are, you can still go for
That's
it.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of strength and fitness, there's a lot of tests you have to go through. So you ideally want to be training beforehand. And when you come into the job and you've applied and you've got through the test and job related tests that you have to do, you then have like a training course which can last somewhere between about 13 to 15 weeks. And that's solid, intense work, learning, studying, training all day, every day. And then you have 2 years of probation. So the probation is you're on station, you're doing the job, but you're still kind of learning along the way a little bit, kind of learning on the job as you go. And that lasts for 2 years. So once you finish probation, as I did in January, so only recently, then you're fully fledged and you're doing the role as best as you can.
That's amazing. Yeah. So yeah, definitely advice if they're interested, definitely visit your local station and, email or ring in and just find that information. One of my other questions that I have for you is that obviously you're a firefighter, you're a hijabi as well. How do you, in terms of your doors opening to different opportunities, do you think that's happened for you? And is there other things that you kind of want to kind of look into?
I'm not too sure, because I think my dream for so long has been firefighting. But now that I'm here and I've only just come out of probation, so I'm still, pretty new. Yeah, I'm just really happy, just enjoying it as it is. Looking ahead, I haven't looked much past this point. I was just kind of aiming to get here, and now that I'm here, I'm enjoying it. But I definitely am kind of looking ahead to think what all of this stuff that's going on now, what else can I do to support people? Because I'm being asked to do talks and visit schools and do different things like that. So inshallah, it might lead to more things in the future. But right now, I'm happy just as a firefighter.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Uroosa, for taking out the time of your busy schedule. As I mentioned, Uroosa's actually on duty, so she could have gone at any time.
All right, no pips.
No, amazing. And I just, it's just been so insightful just to know about your story, about how you've got to this point. Your encouragement for the future generation, you breaking down barriers, you normalizing the fact that being a female hijabi firefighter isn't impossible, is actually possible, and really inspiring future generations is absolutely amazing. As I mentioned to you just prior to this call, we're definitely going to be speaking to you again. We're actually going to be doing a blog post with yourself. So if anybody wants to read more about Uroosa, then please do visit our website, muslimhouse.org.uk. And, I think it'd be really interesting next time to kind of, really ask the audience, if there's any specific questions that they may have for you, and having another Facebook Live and really touching on those questions that I may have missed. There's just too much to talk about, not enough time. So, we definitely have to do it again. But have a lovely rest of your Ramadan, have a lovely rest of your Eid, and thank you so much, Uroosa, for your time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and thank you for the opportunity. It's been lovely to speak to you.
And you take care, Uroosa. Bye-bye. Bye.